I wanted to show you guys something real quick and prove that your phone and Wi-Fi and all the laptops and all that telecommunication shit definitely can give off frequencies that affect you. And I want to show you something. Did you hear that? My phone is not doing anything. There's no app running. That's just the vibrate symbol and it's not on. My computer is not doing anything. I have video pad open and a folder, or no, notepad, and that's it. So again, it's this just one spot. It must reflect the, do you hear that? That's insane. That's coming from the frequencies. It must be lining up somehow, but that's insane, dude.
Dr. Valco and her team studied 47 healthy people for an entire year.
50-minute exposure to a cell phone was associated with increases in glucose consumption by the brain, which indicates that the brain was being activated by the radio frequencies from the cell phone. This right area of the brain that was very close to the antenna showed the largest increases in metabolism as compared when the telephones were off.
Dr. Valco's experiments showed that the human brain has a metabolic reaction to the presence of microwaves from a mobile phone, a metabolic reaction at levels well below the legal limit.
I would hold my cell phone here, and the tumor was right there.
I always held it on my right side, right here. The industry should have put these warnings on these phones a long time ago.
Studies like Professor Leshinsky's now allow top neurosurgeons to issue a stark cell phone warning.
It's essentially cooking the brain.
Clinical studies find young men who keep phones in their pockets have much lower chances of producing offspring, while women often store them on their chest.
I would just tuck it right in to my bra.
Tiffany France got breast cancer aged just 21, right where since childhood she's stored her phone. These spots mark the areas of Donna James's cancer. Her doctors call this a new breed of distribution that exactly matches where women keep their phone.
Multiple small cancers were confined to the upper inner aspect of the breast.
So I found a study from 2008. It's called Mercury Release from Dental Amalgam Restorations after magnetic resonance imaging and following mobile phone use. It found that people who use mobile phones have an accelerated release of mercury from their dental fillings.
I had heart racing, headaches,
nauseous.
It's a really weird feeling.
Does it happen on the weekends?
No.
So we went with this man, industry tester Kavinder Dhillon, to measure the radiation levels in a typical wireless classroom.
113.8 microwatts. People who are actually in the industry who are testing this, they feel this is a high limit. This is very high.
Really?
Yeah.
You heard him. Our industry tester calls that level high, but it's still well within Canada's safety guideline. Now, that guideline is a thing called Safety Code 6. It sets the limit for radio frequency radiation exposure, and Health Canada says there's no way the levels we found are causing those headaches and heart palpitations. And Beth Peterson of Health Canada says the science backs it up.
There's no evidence, scientific evidence, that those kind of effects are caused by the energy limits that kids are exposed to by Wi-Fi.
Health Canada sets the limit at 10 million microwatts per meter squared. Now, that might not mean much to most of us, but in 2008, Toronto's Board of Health said it's way too high and asked Canada's Minister of Health in this letter for much stricter regulations, 100 times more strict. Health Canada never changed a thing. Still, no matter what any guideline says, these parents say they've seen it for themselves and Wi-Fi is harming their kids.
Our safety limits are set on, we use a weight of evidence approach. So there are thousands of articles, thousands of peer-reviewed scientific articles on the issue.
16 by 9 wanted to take a look at that evidence, so we asked Health Canada for its science. They sent us this, a list of 16 studies entitled Specific to Wi-Fi.
So we did our own homework going through every study, and not a single one looks at whether Wi-Fi in schools poses a health risk to students.
The radio frequency meter, it is measuring the transmission of the wireless coming out of this modem. And you can see that the peak signal strength on the left column of this meter is at almost 6 volts per meter. That's as high as it goes. And on the right-hand side, the microwatts per square meter in terms of average is sometimes peaking up at 10,000. These are extremely dangerous readings. You can still see that the whole house is more or less being influenced by this radio frequency transmission.
5 of us all diagnosed at once, within 6 months of each other, with breast cancer.
There were only 18 houses in the village surrounding the phone mast, so Eileen decided to conduct a survey to see if anybody else had suddenly started suffering ill health.
What came back really frightened us. Lots of people were reporting the same symptoms that I've been suffering with for years.
Vertigo.
Yeah, the headaches, the vertigo. But there was other young women in the village who were having fertility problems and precancer cervical cells. We've done a count of 77 people in the houses.
And out of 77 people, how many people were suffering biological effects?
The estimate was around 70%. People
70% of people
who'd had effects over the years with biological effects, sleep problems, skin rashes, benign lumps or cancer.
You know, melatonin is a hormone, and believe it or not, it's made in the brain, and it secretes only at night, and it's at night that we need it because that's when we go to sleep and when our brain repairs the cells of our body.
The hypothesis that the pineal gland cannot distinguish between light frequencies and man-made frequencies is certainly backed up by a wealth of research. In 2011, the World Health Organization changed the danger rating of mobile phones, reclassing it as possibly carcinogenic to humans, based on an increased risk of contracting a glioma, the type of brain tumor associated with using a mobile phone. What was the catalyst for this abrupt change in status? There have been countless studies conducted into the possible health effects of mobile phones, but the most conclusive came from Leonard Hardell. He has overseen the largest and most comprehensive piece of research ever conducted, combining his own work with that of others from around the world. From the early 1990s, they have investigated the phone habits of more than 2,000 people from around the world. People with tumours such as astrocytoma and acoustic neuroma, the brain tumours associated most with mobile phone use due to their proximity to the ear. Their findings are shocking. They concluded that mobile phone use does increase the risk of a brain tumour.
Wargaming reveals this leaked Motorola email is industry-paid studies purely for reassuring the public. We invited the powerful industry lobby CTIA to discuss the issues raised in this report. They sent this one-line refusal.
Thank you for contacting us, but we will not be able to do this interview.
The industry's most respected journalist is Dr. Louis Slessin, editor of Microwave News since 1981. Louis, great to speak to you. There seems to be a parallel universe, what the industry says and everyone else.
The whole system is broken. People are not being told the truth.
Who is it that sets the standards?
A group of people from a committee called ICNIRP.
The people who do the work on mobile phones are, by and large, engineers. They have no idea what is going on inside the living cell, but they are pontificating on this. They make the assumption that the only thing that can affect the well-being of a living organism is if it is powerful enough to heat the tissue.
In 1996, my colleague Om Gandhi of the University of Utah was chairman of the Department of Electrical Engineering and president of the Bioelectromagnetic Society. And he published these findings, which is a scalar two-dimensional model showing the relative amount of radiation in the large head and the smallest head. He lost all his funding for research from Motorola when he published it.
The MTHR program is funded jointly by the UK government and the mobile telecommunications industry, and it funds research into possible adverse health effects related to mobile phone technology. Well, of course, there is a potential conflict of interest, and that's why a program of funding like this has to be carefully managed.
Class action lawsuits filed against cell phone manufacturers. Coming up.
Here is the 10K report from Verizon. It says, we are subject to a significant amount of litigation, which could require us to pay significant damages or settlements. AT&T, unfavorable litigation or governmental investigation results could require us to pay significant amounts. This is China Mobile. We cannot be certain that future studies will not impute a link between electromagnetic fields and adverse health effects. There's a legal responsibility of these corporations to report to the Securities and Exchange Commission that they face risks because there may be risks associated with their products and their services.